anyone here who was raised in an "oh, we're just teasing" family actually find that teasing?
Hi, my name's Lauren. I grew up in one of these families and I have no contact with my parents, really my entire family now, and I talk about it a lot on my page. But this is so funny that I came upon this video today because last week I turned to my husband sitting on the couch and I had the realization that every time I laughed as a child, like in my childhood, I was laughing at somebody. The way that my family had experienced joy or fun was always at somebody's expense. And I'm autistic and have ADHD, and I specifically am what's called high masking autistic. So, meaning that I observed early on in my life that the behaviors that were natural to me, innate to me, that came along with being autistic led to me being judged, ostracized, made fun of. First by my family, but then also by kids at school. And so I was bullied a lot in school. And I think the reason why growing up I didn't realize that what we were doing as a family was bullying family members was because I had learned to mask enough as the oldest within my family to prevent me from being the butt of the joke a lot of the time within my family unit. And so it felt good when we made these jokes and we were laughing and whatever to finally feel like I wasn't on the receiving end of them. It felt fun. It felt like I was taking my power back, even though I was taking it back by putting other people down, which is not ever a good place to be in, and it's not a good realization to have. But made me realize, like, I'm very envious of people who are naturally funny, who are able to take the traumatic things that happen to them and build up a sense of humor about them, because I feel like I never really learned that skill. I never learned how to be funny outside of like puns. My dad is also autistic, undiagnosed, and also in denial, but he used a lot of dad puns. He was like the most quintessential dad, like always making the puns, always doing the embarrassing things, and my mom hated it. So a lot of the times my dad was the butt of the joke and we were making fun of his jokes. But looking back on it now, and don't get me wrong, my dad was toxic in a lot of ways. I actually think my dad was funny. What wasn't funny was that he would repeat the joke over and over again when people didn't laugh the first time because he didn't acknowledge our existence outside of what he wanted to share. So it became like really annoying. But his jokes were funny, and they would have been funnier if he had, an existing relationship with any of his children. But regardless, all that to say, like, anytime I've been funny in my life, I'm funny unintentionally, so I don't know how to replicate it because it's just like me existing or me making weird sounds or talking in funny voices because I'm autistic and I'm often like vocal stimming. And when I was a teacher, this would happen a lot and kids would laugh. And I didn't feel like they were making fun of me. Like, I think they thought that it was intentional, but it was just me existing. And I had a lot of neurodivergent kiddos when I was teaching. And so it made them feel comfortable to be themselves as well. And us all kind of laugh at ourselves, not making fun, but, just existing, being neurodivergent and silly and laughing at being silly. And I don't know, I just have realized lately, like I've tried to be funny, I've tried to explore more because I would love to be a funny person, but I really don't know how to do it if it's not at somebody's expense, and I don't want to do that anymore. And I lived in like a very abusive household, okay? Like physical abuse was common, as well as emotional abuse, and I would say like teasing like this consistently, that's emotional abuse, whether you want to call it that or not. But this is an area that like I didn't experience a lot personally, but I was a part of, and that's something I've been having to sit with a lot recently when talking about my siblings as being the oldest child and realizing how I was, even though I was a child at the time too, I was an active participant in their abuse. And what does that mean? What does that look like in healing? What does that look like in who I want to be now in the future? If I ever have relationships with my siblings again, if we ever are able to restore that relationship, what does that look like? How do we avoid that dynamic again in the future? And just like also having compassion for my younger self and realizing I was doing what I needed to do to keep the target off of me. Because if I wasn't involved in it, my mom would have immediately found something in me to exploit and make fun of. And don't get me wrong, she did tease me. She did make fun of things, and I was always very insecure about them, but I didn't even know I had an option to be like, I don't like this, stop. Like, that was never presented to me. I didn't know that. And my siblings said similar things, but it was so steamrolled over, and it was steamrolled over me, I think, for sure, when I was younger, and I said stuff like that, that like, I just thought that that was like a phantom thing that you could want, but never actually get, because no boundaries that I ever tried to set as a child were ever respected. So I just didn't even know that there were people that existed that respected people's boundaries, especially children's boundaries. So I don't know, this gave me a lot to think about. I think that anybody who thinks that it really was just fun is in denial, because if they were to acknowledge the fact that it was hurtful, that would mean coming to terms with the fact that they were an active participant in harming somebody that they love, a sibling, a child, something like that. So it's easier to say like, it was just teasing, it's just all in good fun, because to recognize that it really wasn't in good fun and it really hurt and they kept doing it. It's also to recognize that you're being abused by somebody, that somebody ignored your boundaries, that someone cared more about laughing, having fun, than they did about the feelings of their child, of their siblings, of people that they're supposed to love, you know? So that's my 2 cents on that.